Welcome back, everyone. New School Sensei, we're back. So I'm your host, Lance Douglas. We got Ken, almost like a punching bag this week. So he copped a couple of good bashing. And last week too. So we might talk about that. It's all good. It was all in jiu-jitsu. And we got Sammy from Combat One, so C1. Sammy, awesome to have you in. You know, you've done really well. You've grown your club. It's probably the quickest I've seen, having just a small amount of talent. And then now you got guys in UFC, you got on the local circuit. And just like, I've never done any MMA with you guys, but I know in jiu-jitsu, like one of the main things I noticed with your team is they're really hard to hold down. Like these guys are almost like allergic of staying on their back for any period of time. So that's awesome, mate.
Yeah, it's definitely something we kind of train in for guys who signal that they're more interested in MMA or no-gi stuff than into...
Got Ninos. Look how sweaty he is. Let's go. Go
for it.
Keep going, Sammy.
We train that from the start. So anyone who's kind of more interested in MMA, I don't really get them playing too much guard, or at least the rule in the fight team is that you've got about 30 seconds to attack. And if you get some kind of good positional grips, or if you start to get their arm across the center line or something, and it's like, yep, attack. But if not, you just got to change position. You got to look to sweep, you got to look to stand up. And then I think naturally we have a really good kind of bottom half guard game. So that kind of merges in with it all, where the guys probably feel better going to bottom half guard than close guard. Whereas a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms, close guard is one of the king positions. So we just don't spend much time training in it. So
fair enough.
Filter out of it.
Yeah. So that's one thing I've noticed. Your guys hard to hold down. Another thing, all your team's super friendly, which is awesome. The third thing I actually wanted to ask you about, I've noticed the Combat One boys have to be the sweatiest people I've rolled with.
Yeah.
Like it is like, I almost need a towel straight after. So there must be something happening in Laverton.
Yeah. Do you know? I don't know.
Something in the Laverton market.
Wait, no, but like, I think it must have been a few months ago. I rolled with your new striking coach. I forget his name.
Lucas. Yeah.
Lucas. And it was almost like misting at me. Every time he touched me, it was misting. But this guy was like, he was just ragdolling me. And I was just like, what? Like, it was just crazy.
Yeah.
But he's really good.
Yeah,
no, apparently he's a great, apparently he's even better striker.
Yeah,
like,
no, he's like elite as a striker.
But probably the sweatiest person I've ever rolled in my life.
But there's just every single one of them. And I don't know.
Moe's sweaty, Alan sweaty, Aaron sweaty. They're all like, it's unbelievable. Like, and for me, that's part of the reason why I do a lot of gi. Is like, I don't like a ridiculous amount of sweat.
Maybe fighters are always drinking water or what?
Yeah, maybe super hydrated. And they sauna, like the boys sauna a lot. They sauna 2 to 3 times a week, often as a group. So maybe the body just gets used to sweating. I don't know. I sweat at the best of times as well.
That should be sweaty. You need to be off.
Yeah, I sweat getting changed in the morning sometimes. But I can't claim that. I think that's just genetics.
Just how it is.
Yeah.
Now, so Combat One located in Laverton. So if you're not here in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, Laverton, it's definitely, I know back in the day, 10, 20 years ago, because Ken and I we brought up in Altona Meadows, which is just one suburb across from Laverton. And Laverton, it was a pretty sketchy area. I don't know how it is these days, but I remember getting home from Laverton Station. It was the first time I learned about the word chuffa. So someone offering chuffa, I learned that was marijuana. Obviously said no to that one. And just remember that one we saw, the guy was getting beaten up. It was almost like a gang initiation.
We've seen a lot in the West.
A lot of guys getting beat up. First time I learned to just don't make eye contact when people are selling drugs or doing graffiti. I learned that one in Laverton. So it's amazing. Laverton's got that stigma about, it's rough, there's a lot of violence, a lot of drugs, and somehow you've corralled a lot of the locals. I don't know if you're getting them from the Labo market and you've put them into this team and, they're friendly and they can fight. So that's a credit to you.
Thanks. I think fight teams are normally from kind of poorer areas, like green leafy suburbs don't really produce guys who normally want to go cage fighting. Or if they do, maybe they're just checking it out. Most of the guys from the West, working pretty basic jobs. There's not heaps of career kind of orientated guys. Most of them are just working to make a buck. And Laverton is not that different to where I grew up. Like I grew up in Ballarat and like I see a lot of similarities between the area and where I grew up. So for me, that's just kind of normal. Those are my kind of people, like that's what I grew up around. So I don't kind of look twice at it. You see some crazy stuff in the street, but it's like, they're just doing their thing. I just leave them do it, go do my thing. Most of the boys are from like the kind of the West as a whole. There's not really, before we opened up, there wasn't really, past Footscray, wasn't really a big MMA gym. So there was a couple that were kind of bigger. But
West Side MMA.
Yeah, West Side, that's Caroline Springs. So they were
probably used to be very big back in the day. I remember they had a huge facility. And they were very big back in the day.
That's an awesome facility. And they got great jiu-jitsu, and they got Lucas came from West Side.
Okay, cool.
And so, yeah, that was a good, like they're a good gym. Probably not a fight gym, not a fight team.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of the rest of the West, there's just no fight team. So I was really the only coach who was operating in the West. And so it's pretty natural that kind of guys from all around would just kind of find their way to my door.
That's super awesome. And there's one thing I noticed about your guys. They're actually really friendly and they actually want to learn.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because from my experience with training with fighters, they just want to get you in and out as quick as possible. They just bash you. They just go for the kill A game straight away. But I found with your guys, they're actually trying to learn, like they flow a little bit. They don't go too crazy.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I really am proud of that. Like I'm proud of our team. Like we have such a great bunch of guys, and I can't really credit that too much. It's just like the people who seem to get attracted to me as a coach are really honourable kind of good men. So, it's good. We've cultivated a real learning and development focus. So what can happen sometimes in MMA is that guys want to kind of cherry pick fights. They want to only take fights that they know they can win. So we've gone a completely different route to that. We've gone a real development focus in the amateurs where obviously you want to win. Like, we've all got pride. We've all got like winning a fight is a much nicer feeling than losing a fight. But at the end of the day, development is what we focus on until the pros. And then in the pros, it changes up a little bit. But that's kind of, I think, where the guys get that idea on trying to learn and cultivate technique as much.
I like it. It sort of sounds like a similar system that we used to be part of, Lance, with the, with all the sports karate, yeah?
Yeah, sports karate, they had, so you had your local clubs, and then Karate Victoria would just, I guess, all the top club athletes would then train once a week in Karate Victoria, and then they'd, develop you, I guess, all your skills, your tactics, but also physically as well. And then they'd have a national team. So it's almost you've kind of built that into Combat One.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that kind of happens inside the club a fair bit. Like there is a fight team that operates. All the fight team kind of train in normal classes, or they're expected to still be active in the kind of normal classes. But we do operate a fight team schedule outside of that.
Yeah, but I guess I can probably think of one problem with maybe trying to develop is it's quite dangerous. Like you look at that Road to X, Path to X, whatever they're called these days. It was one of those brutal cards that I heard about, and that wasn't pro, was it?
So, yeah, that was
so.
Crazy.
Like you gotta be careful as well. You got people getting put unconscious, people getting their teeth buckled in, all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
yeah, definitely. Like again, I'm so numb to the danger of the sport. Like I've been around it for so long that it's just so numbing. I guess all that stuff that would be quite shocking to other people. Having said that, that Road to Hex was pretty crazy. That was a pretty wild event, and I think there was maybe 3 or 4 bad knockouts in the first 9 fights. And so it just kind of builds, and sometimes maybe there's just something in the air. But yeah, I guess that's the challenge. There's inherently risks in everything. So if you're signing up to fight, you know what you're getting into. Like I don't think anyone doesn't understand that there's dangers involved with it. What I'm meaning with the development side of things is that if you just want to win a few amateur fights, you can pick and choose your way pretty comfortably. But what I'm trying to do is build the best martial artists that I possibly can.
Oh, I got you, yeah.
And so it's not about winning fights. It's about being a good martial artist. Part of that is that if you're a good martial artist, you should be able to smash guys in fights. So I focus on that kind of development and holistic development rather than just results, which I think some guys maybe focus on a little bit more.
That's perfect. If we're talking about fights, do you want to talk about one of your main, I don't want to say main student because you got a lot of students that you love and that you coach and stuff, but one of your most well-known students.
Yeah.
Jono.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about how you guys met?
Yeah.
And sort of what his run has been to the UFC?
Yeah, sure. So Jono and me met, oh God, it would have been like 2018, 2019. I'd moved to Melbourne and I was boxing out of Tarneet Boxing out in the western suburbs. And I had a fight with Dave as the cornerman. And so me and Dave Hegarty out there, we were really close. And Dave messaged me one day. And at boxing gyms, it's quite different to martial arts facilities. They'll be sparring on 3 or 4 times a week. They kind of organise different guys to come in. You know, there's be the pros sparring in the ring, and you'll often watch the sparring. And David said to me, "Oh, there's an MMA guy coming in tonight to have a spar." And so I was like, "Oh, cool. That's weird that someone with an MMA background would come in here and not message me." And then Jono walked in the door, and just watching him shadow, I was like, "Oh no, this kid sucks."
Straight up.
Yeah, he'd been training for like 3 months.
Wow.
And, was thinking about having a fight. So one of his friends was training at Tarneet, and so he'd come across for some sparring. And I don't think he quite knew what that meant. If you were coming from another club to spar at a boxing club, it was you going in for a bit of a war. It wasn't nice rounds. So me and John just had a bit of a workout. We went in the smaller ring, and so the smaller ring is kind of like off to the side. People watch the bigger ring, and then the pros finished sparring, so everyone naturally kind of gathered around watching me and Jono. And so I had to try and put on a bit of a show. And I tried to put him down pretty hard. I was just going to the body, but I couldn't put him down. And I was like, a 10-fight pro, and he'd been training for 3 months. And I was thinking, Jesus, this kid's got a little bit of something. He's built.
Tough.
Like he even at that point, he was shredded. He was probably bigger then than he is now because he was bodybuilding a little bit at that point. So then we just kind of hit it off from there. He kind of just picked my brain on a few things. Like we kind of just had a few chats. I just told him he wasn't ready to fight yet. So then he kind of just moved under my tuition from there. And then at that point, I was just running like a little garage crew. So I had about kind of 10, 15 guys that were training with me. So Jono jumped involved with that. And then that's pretty much it.
Rest is history.
Yeah, attached to each other's hips ever since.
Literally from grassroots.
Yeah. He did his first fight. He was training with me, but he was still at another gym. And so, I just left that alone. I let them corner him, and then he straight away came across to me after that.
So if that was that 2018, 2019?
Yeah, I think that was 2019. 2019, I'd
So
say.
literally you had him for 6-7 years before he got to UFC.
Yeah, which is quick. That's quick. Yeah. So like most of the time you're probably looking at a decade of training before you make it. Maybe if you're a bit younger, you can maybe get in a little bit quicker, but 6 years is pretty fast, especially now with the amateurs. You're going to spend a year or two before you have any amateur fights. You're going to spend 2 to 3 years in the amateurs and then 2 to 3 years in the pros. So you're looking at, kind of 5, 6, 7 years as a minimum before you can even think that you're going to make the UFC.
I like it. So have you got any tips for any coaches out there that want to have an athlete in the UFC if they're just starting out, grassroots?
Yeah, it's such a journey. Like I wouldn't even be thinking like that could be like a long-term goal, but you've just got to grind. Like you've just really got to grind. I think the big thing within our group that we're really good at is sacrifice. So we kind of, I demand the guys to reciprocate training. So if you are training for a fight, when you finish your fight, you're straight back in the gym when you're healthy and you're helping the next guys get ready.
That's good.
MMA teams and fighters in the past, guys that I was involved with, was quite selfish. And even me, when I was fighting, I was quite selfish. And so I feel like if you want to build a good team, which is what I was looking to do, not just build single fighters, you've got to have everyone chipping in. Everyone's got to kind of be rowing the boat in the same direction. And so, that's all I'd say is I would just say, if you want to coach guys to the top, you got to be prepared to sacrifice everything. It's a brutal game. It's so tough that just be prepared to give it all up.
How do you structure your training? Because you're talking about you got fight camps and you focus on the person for their fight camp and then there's the next fight camp. Is it camp to camp you just change it up? Or do you have an overall plan for the month or for the 6 months? Because it's a lot different to us.
So there's a system a bunch of like different systems that I have for grappling and striking. And so we have systems that we run inside the gym each month, which I think is pretty normal. I think a lot of clubs have adopted that system, like that kind of style of instruction nowadays.
So that could just be just like, like a stand-up sort of thing, like circling or anticipating or something like that.
I've got like a bunch of systems with the striking. If we just look at the striking, I won't go into too much of it because it's kind of my secret sauce. But like, for example, it might be like range control. So you might be looking at range control for a month. And so it's everything from jabs, like straight punches, straight kicks, in and out footwork. We do a lot of taekwondo and karate style footwork in that month. And then, we just kind of have that kind of blocked out for the year. Yeah. But then, and that's what everyone's training in. But having said that, as people are getting ready for fights, we kind of create little game plans and systems for those guys as they get ready for the fight. So there's what the team's doing. And then individually, each person, as they are getting closer to their fight, is kind of funneling in a few other areas. I wouldn't even necessarily say it's like a training camp or a game plan, but it's just like what we expect is going to happen in the fight. We start to get ready for a few situations there.
It sounds like a tough gig because you've got to, you've got your system for the entire year for most of the people. Then people got fight camps. You got to really dig in with those guys as well.
It's
almost like you're running a few different lesson plans in one session. You're thinking about all sorts of stuff.
I'm maybe making it sound harder than it is, or maybe I just find it easy, but I don't find it that difficult. Like, there is a lot on your mind. Like, you've got to be thinking about a lot. And when you've got a big fight team, like we had maybe 11 fights through till March this year, from like January through till March.
It's a lot.
You've just got
already, mate.
Yeah, so you've just got to. I think you just get used to it though as a coach. You're just used to kind of you guys, and also your relationships, like the relationships you build with the guys. Like Jono and me, I can tell what he's thinking. He can tell what I'm thinking, and most of the time we can communicate things really quickly to each other. So it doesn't take that much energy. The guys who take more energy are the new amateurs, because they're scared. You're developing their resilience. You're developing all this stuff. The pros who have been with you for a while are really easy to operate with because you've just got it like a smooth machine by 3 to 4 or 5 years of working with each other.
So with your pro sessions, you want to tell the people like how you structure them, like how long do they go for, and just from start to finish, just so that other coaches get an idea.
Yeah. So how I do our pros is, and it's more just a fight team session than the pros because the amis are in it too, and even like aspiring amateurs who guys who are just super committed, say, training 10 plus hours a week in the gym consistently for a year or so, those guys will get invited in. So they're hour sessions. There's either a striking or a grappling focus to the session. And then there's just the system that we're working, and then we just build that system through the month. So, like let's say we're working range distance control. We may be working on the jab. So we'll literally be doing jab mechanics. So even with Jono, like most of our training camps start with me working on his jab and making sure his jab's coming along nicely and his cross. And then you build from that. We spar Fridays. And then we light spar on Tuesdays. And then a lot of our drills turn into play sparring.
Yep.
So I'll kind of create little games. So there's like this debate going on at the moment, like ecological versus
Lances all over.
Yeah. So I use aspects of that, I would say. And I didn't even know what it was until people started arguing about it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of what I do naturally. So I create little games and we'll be play sparring within a situation. So yeah, it's kind of hard. There's just so much that you're doing with a fight team that it's very hard to kind of break it down.
Talking about like if we're fighting at range, do you have like an example of a game that you would do?
Yeah, so just like it'd be like a jab game, so like a jab sparring game.
Jab for jab?
Yeah, so you can either go, one in the gun, so it's just like both guys have got like one jab, or you can just have one person on offense, one person on defense, kind of depends. And then you can do the same with kicking. You can do it with like side kicks, front kicks, and it's the exact same. It's like first point, I guess you'd say.
Interesting. It sounds like some of the stuff that we do.
Yeah,
martial arts.
Yeah, so I grew up doing Wing Chun. So Wing Chun was my first martial art. And so I talk about this a lot with Aaron, the old National All Styles competition.
Nass,
I used to,
wow.
I used to go to Nass all the time.
Wow.
And
Aaron was out there just on the weekend.
yeah, we were just chatting about it. And you know, so like I see MMA quite holistically. So I think there are great aspects of traditional styles that are not being implemented. You know, and then you see guys that come in and implement it, and you go, "Oh wow, this definitely works." So yeah, there's different little things, little games that I'll create like that, and it depends on the group too. Because if the group's struggling with the content that we're doing, we're not going to go live. We're just going to keep drilling certain things until the skill set gets to a point where we can go live. You know, that's a part of what I do too. I think that you don't want to go too open too quick. You know, you want to make sure that there's at least some fundamentals that people are trying to have got like locked in on before they try like implementing it.
I like it. Like, yeah, this sort of sounds like the secret sauce. Instead of just getting everyone sparring every day, going hard every day, you're actually trying to dial it in, get the technique right.
We
get
do
the skills going.
do hard sparring though as well. Like I'm not a coach who has stepped away from hard sparring. A lot of guys have. I think that there's like a nice mix of both that you can get going on. And like hard sparring is probably like one of the difficult topics in MMA.
How would you define hard sparring?
Kind of where I just let the pace be dictated on the mat, where I'm not going to be telling people to go light or telling people to go at a certain percentage, you know, because sometimes I'll say like, guys, we go quick, but we're not trying to hit each other hard, yada, yada, yada. We also have sessions where it's just like, you know, this is for fighters. Everyone in here knows what it's like when you've got live shots coming at you. So it's like, prepare for it. I'm not going to dictate how hard you go, you know, it gets dictated by the mat.
Yeah, very interesting. I like it. What's your thoughts, Lance?
Yeah, the listeners and viewers probably won't know that, Sammy, you've got a PE background. You used to be a PE teacher. So for the guys in America, physical education. How many years did you do that for?
I only retired just before I opened the gym, so maybe 10 years of teaching.
Wow, so you got like a proper like teaching pedigree under you. So I think that's probably part of the secret sauce too.
Yeah, for sure. I think
because a lot of coaches, we've talked about a lot on the podcast, like probably coaches are sick of us here and they're like, typical coaches, stereotypical coach, you know, they've probably dropped out of high school. They've probably just fallen into the job so they can keep training themselves. And
Whereas,
definitely not you.
Yeah, no, I didn't really want to coach, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like when I finished.
Often makes the best coaches.
Yeah. Well, they say the best coaches are failed athletes. So I failed as well. I didn't make the big show like I kind of wanted to. But for me, I think like the PE side of things has really helped. So I went straight from high school to uni and I did PE teaching at uni. And so then when I finished uni, I just taught casually and just trained out of a gym and fought full time. So it was really flexible, and that was one of the good things about it is I could work 3 days a week, I could work 2 days a week, and the pay was good enough. The pay was definitely better than what you'd get in just a normal kind of throwaway job at a supermarket or, you know, doing security like a lot of the boys do. And so I guess with that, like you develop a pedagogy, like you start learning all these kind of things, like, and then naturally as I was learning that stuff, I was applying it to being a martial artist.
Yep.
And just, I think everywhere I ever trained, I ended up coaching. So like, even though I don't really want to, it's just kind of naturally what happened.
Kenny, would you want to just tell them to stop talking?
Yeah. You guys can go.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of background noise here at AT, but it keeps a good character here. What are some specific things you got from the PE teaching that you could bring across the MMA coaching? Because I know big in PE world would be the constraints-led approach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously from teaching a lot, you know how to manage a classroom. So your classroom now would be Combat 1. So what are some key learnings you would have picked up?
Yeah, man, I could talk a lot about this, but I think you develop a certain confidence in talking in front of people when you're a teacher. Especially a PE teacher, you'll often have 2 to 3 classes. So you got 70 kids in a gym. It's raining, so all the kids have come together.
I remember those days.
Yeah,
I remember those days. Yeah.
Maybe like 2 other teachers haven't showed up, and you've got 2 English teachers with you, so you've literally got 70 kids that you're going to have to look after while these guys sit on their laptops. So, you get used to that side of things. I'm naturally a really confident kind of guy. Like I think I developed that through martial arts early. So I think that aspect of it, and just in terms of public speaking and those kind of things, you develop as a teacher. In terms of like pedagogy and stuff like that, growth mindset would probably be a big thing in martial arts, where you're trying to get people to understand that you're going to be really bad at this at the start, but if you stay at it, you're going to eventually get better at it. I think that's probably in essence what we want to try and focus on as educators, whether it's PE in the school system or whether you're a martial artist. You want people to develop this understanding that you will get better at this. And probably linking that back to a lot of the boys that train underneath me, we probably naturally have a really good growth mindset where all of the guys understand I'll be bad at this to begin with, and then I'll eventually get good at it, because that's what's happened for every other single thing I've tried at in martial arts. And so, I'd say that's probably the key to kind of my approach. Outside of that, I'm just trying to be really authentic. Like, I don't sugarcoat things. I'm quite blunt with the guys when they need me to be. I do really care about the guy, like my team. So if you're with me, I really care about you. If you're not with me, I just don't care about you. It's not like I wish ill upon you, but I just really put zero energy into it. So I think that's kind of at its heart what it is.
Do you reckon being a PE teacher could be, like, say, if someone who wants to be a coach, it could be a good stepping stone?
For sure. Like, if you're a martial artist and you're also a PE teacher, you are getting reps in like 6 hours a day at educating and getting whatever's in your, because really teaching is getting whatever's in your mind into someone else's mind, and understanding how different people learn about things, how you can communicate things to people differently. So I think you just get more reps into it. Like, martial arts schools are really only open from kind of 4 or 5 p.m. until 8 p.m. So you only got like 3 hours. Whereas if you're teaching during the day, you're getting double to triple that time, The biggest difference, I guess, is, and this was kind of the end of me being a PE teacher, was when I was really struggling to connect with the kids. So a lot of the kids in the school system now don't really want to be there. And PE, I think, used to be the subject where kids love, like a lot of those at-risk kids and kids who didn't want to be at school, they at least loved PE. So you'd get those kids buying into PE. Nowadays, those kids don't want to be doing PE either. They want to be doing different stuff. And so,
like, they want more screen time, or?
Yeah, screen time. I think screen time's a big thing. I think kids are just maturing quicker than they did previously. So kind of sport loses its interest for kids a little bit earlier than what it was for us. And so whereas at C1, you want to be doing martial arts if you've come there. No one's forcing you to be there. No one has to drop you off and pick you up. If you come in, you want to learn, so it's also a much easier group of people to educate and teach.
Yeah.
Because they've already bought in. You know what I mean? And if they don't buy in, they're just going to kind of cancel early. So I'm cool with that. So I would say, to answer your question, yes. Doing PE would be great for anyone to coach in martial arts.
I like it, Sammy. So if we switch gears, let's talk about your star student, Jono, his last 2 fights in the UFC. Do you want to break down his first fight that he had?
Yep. So on Contender Series.
The Contenders, yeah.
Yeah. We Jono just stays super active. So he just kind of trains all year round. He trains like a demon. And he kind of is constantly close to overtraining. So he's a guy who can take short notice fights really easily. His weight never really blows out of proportion. He's always fit. He's always good to go. So I think what happened with that one was we got onto Contender Series late. I think there was a pullout. I think someone else was meant to fight Moad Doe, who was the opponent. And we were ready to step up. So we took the fight on maybe 4 weeks notice.
Wow, nice.
Which normally they give a lot more heads up for Contender Series so that the pros can kind of not take another fight beforehand, because you might lose that fight. And so, we went over there. He was a really good Canadian, undefeated. He'd beaten some some really good guys. So he was similar to Jono. I think he was only 4-0, and Jono was maybe 5-1, 6-1 in that region. And he'd beaten some of the best Canadian welterweights, which kind of pushed him to the top of the pile in Canada. So it was maybe one of the best Canadian welterweights on the regional scene versus one of the best Australian welterweights on the regional scene. And then Jono just, really kind of cut through him. You know, it was pretty one-sided.
There we got Tommy Gunn.
Sorry to interrupt. The gym's locked, so lead to that emergency.
Actually, we got you easy, yeah.
Hey.
I'm at one shit gym.
It's all happening now.
Yeah, we gotta cut
serious
that
business.
out. We gotta cut that out.
Nah, Tommy Gunn. He's he could potentially be going for the trials for the CJI.
Yeah, no,
So-
and I think the way that they've set that up, that really suits Tommy. Like they're looking for sub hunters. They're looking for, if you do the trial before the trial too.
Yeah, I've
pretty
read about
crazy.
that.
Like,
Yeah.
this is pretty crazy. You're gonna have to be fit as, and you're gonna have to be able to do kind of 6.
You should send Jono to do it. He can do pretty well.
Oh yeah, he would. That's
It's
just
risk of the legs, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's too risky.
Yeah. Oh, it's just more so too. Like, there's not much to gain for that for us. You know what I mean? Like, even if Jono gets onto CJI, I don't think anyone's getting blown away by an MMA fighter being on CJI, whereas he's at a perfect point now where he can kind of start making some waves. But I think Jono, if he wanted to, would be the best grappler in Australia if he stopped fighting and just decided to do jiu-jitsu full time.
In that first fight, he got
showed
that
his
triangle. It was
Yeah.
pretty quick, to be honest.
Yeah, so
Beautiful trip to get him down.
yeah,
That
he
was
caught the kick,
beautiful.
kind of took a bit of time in the clinch, got him down, and the opponent stood up like off an underhook from out, which is really weird. And so then he
You
reversed
really want to
him.
get up that guy.
Yeah.
Because first time I've actually done some study for these sort of potties, and Mo, he was constantly sort of coming up, always heisting.
Mm.
He was just constantly, even from Mountie high center.
Yeah, he had and look, in MMA you see this, like you'll see there's a much more broad kind of spectrum of styles of grappling. I think in jiu-jitsu you see there's a bit more of a meta in jiu-jitsu, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like if you watch high level matches, you're going to see the same kind of 2 or 3, 4 or 5 kind of pathways that it goes down, whereas MMA grappling seems to be a bit more open. And so yeah, Jono got back to mount, and then he bridged again, and Jono just set up a great triangle. And he's got Jono does this weird stuff where like he locked up the triangle on the wrong side, and then like
That's what Kenny was saying, yeah.
and
It
so
was
then he
the-
reaches
it was-
underneath
yeah,
the
it
wrong
was the
leg.
wrong
Yeah.
arm. I was like,
Yeah.
because he had, because usually it'd be the left hand on the head and the right arm scoop, but he initially
Yeah.
went left arm, but then he eventually, it was just
So he's got
different.
Jono's got all these little things that he does that you watch and you go, I don't know why he's doing that. And
He's got
then,
long arms for it.
he's just like got little tricks. So I think he was just pulling the guy's base by going that way. So just shifted his base and then swung it back across. And credit to the opponent, he went out on his shield. He kind of got choked unconscious.
Yeah.
So that was a cool one. You know, that was really cool. And then Jono's last fight. So from that point, we were just kind of asking for fight constantly. And the UFC matchmakers kind of decide that. So we got, again, a late call up for UFC Sydney, and it was against Kevin Gisette, who's had 3 fights in the UFC at this stage, 2 wins, 1 loss, and he's like a very legitimate martial artist, you know, quite a high-level judo guy. He had been dominating the welterweight scene as Jono was on the rise, so like that was just a name that was on our lips, that if Kevin hadn't have been signed to the UFC, that would have been the one we were going for. So it was cool. It was like the 2 last champions of Hex kind of meeting off against each other in the UFC. It's pretty cool. And he comes from City Kickboxing, so that's an elite gym. We have a very healthy level of respect for those guys. And so yeah, we knew we were in for a really tough one, and the fight played out pretty much the way that we had kind of game planned. We were expecting it to be a striking fight. Both guys are really good grapplers, but neither guy seems to go to initiate the grapple a lot. And we just had, like, Jono's kicks are just really good. Like he's had quite a few knockouts. Yeah.
Kenny describes his left leg kick almost like a Severo rocker, like kicking from
like a
outside
big torque,
50.
yeah.
Kenny's when Ken
Mate,
described to me,
He's
you want to
punching
say
a
it?
torpedo from 60 meters. It feels like Jono, like he just
Dude,
bolts it.
so just a quick one on Jono's kicks. This is, again, as an MMA coach, where you've just got to be there's just different stuff with it. So Jono does everything technically incorrect, right? Like everything he does looks a bit off. And I allow that to be. Like I allow Jono to have effective techniques rather than aesthetically pleasing techniques, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So Jono went to Thailand last year. This was just
Bring a football with him.
I don't even think he could kick a foot. I don't think he could kick a drop punt.
Mate, the way Kenny described it, he was punting it. He was launching those kicks.
Yeah.
That would have gone 70 metres the way he was going.
But they wouldn't let him into the pro class at the gym in Thailand.
Really?
Because his technique on his kick wasn't good enough. And when he
Shit
came,
is this?
like a legit, no, like a legit Thai gym. When Jono said where to go, I said, I'll go to a traditional Thai place. Don't go to an MMA gym.
Like a Tiger.
Yeah. Oh, look, those gyms are awesome too.
Cool.
But it's just like I would go to a traditional place because I think, you get a little bit different feel and you get a more authentic
bit more hands-on
to it. Yeah. But yeah, they didn't let him in the pro class for like 3 weeks. And I just chuckle now because it's like, sometimes people focus more on what's aesthetically the right technique versus can this person land it. And Drickus is a good example of that too. Like Drickus doesn't do anything
Pahana as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's lots of guys who are just effective, and so that's Jono. And so, yeah, Jono, we just blasted his body with heaps of kicks, and then we knew that we'd draw the arm down. Jono caught the head kick, but then he just couldn't find it again. And that's, I think, credit to Kevin. He's really durable, really tough. So, yeah, it was awesome. So, yeah, we've had an awesome start. It's probably the hardest debut that an Aussie fighter's had in a long time. They normally don't do Aussie versus Aussie or from the region guys too much. So, when you get that, it's a bit of a shame because you want to see that guys from this region do well.
Yeah, definitely.
But for us, it was a perfect springboard because Jono's kind of shot himself up above a bunch of other guys now because he's beaten a dude who's fought 3 times in the UFC with a winning record. He passed his first test in, I guess, the big show Flying Colours. I was saying before, like usually we don't really do much prep for these sort of things, and it was actually quite hard to find Jono's fight, at the time, because I believe he was the first fight on the undercard. Yeah. So they do the main event, like the main card, which is maybe 5 or 6 fights, and then they do prelims, and then they'll have fight pass prelims. And so to see the fight pass prelims, you've got to have UFC fight pass. Yeah, so it took me a while to track that down, but I actually studied him a bit. Yeah. So his first fight versus Murray, I only watched that once because I thought it was pretty straightforward. His second fight, I actually watched that twice, the full thing twice. So from my vantage point, the things I was saying, he did really good to circle to his right. Yeah. Sort of a bit of a parry with his right hand, but he was blasting him with that left leg. Just kept circle, and then boom. Pretty much the first 2 rounds, he literally he didn't have to get into second. He was in first gear, just circle, left leg. And then it was that 3rd round, he started to get cut off. I do believe he lost that 3rd round. He was starting to get cut off a bit. The guy finally switched on that. I guess, it took him a few rounds. So for me, it would have been interesting if Jono obviously won the 1st round, but then if in the 2nd round, if he was starting to get cut off and maybe it was 1-1, then it would have been cool to see how would Jono. I'd love to see his 2nd or 3rd gear. Yeah. If the circle on the left leg wasn't working. What can kind of happen? Well, so that kind of is the basic footwork battle between an orthodox and a southpaw. So if you're the southpaw, both guys want to win the foot battle and they just want to be kind of shifting off, pivoting off, and then your backside comes into play. So whether it's the cross or the body kick or the rear kick. I guess going into that 3rd round, Jono was going for the kill constantly and Kevin was really pressuring back. But when you're in the lead 2 rounds to zip, you don't have to necessarily be complacent, but you don't have to risk it, whereas the other guy has to risk it. So if the shoe's on the other foot there, I'm telling my fighter, better to go out on your shield, better to try and knock this dude out and lose getting knocked out than to lose a decision that you could have tried harder in. So, I think that's just high-level fighting, Kevin just came out in that last round and he knew that he had to give a bit more and try a bit harder to try and cut Jono off. But yeah, we had stuff ready as well. If it had gone there, we were kind of ready to take the fight in a few different directions. Yeah, it was cool because I watched it twice. On the second one, I sort of
figured out that he'd circle to the right, Jono, but then if he ever circled to the left, he was actually quite far out, but then he'd blast straight away. He'd only circle it for a little bit, and then he'd go for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was quite interesting. But his like literally his main tactic was circle to the right, and it worked for him, played beautifully. But like it'd be cool to talk about training southpaws.
Yeah.
Because Lance was actually a southpaw. So I'm actually used to fighting southpaws a lot. And something that we used to do when especially
So you're left-handed?
I'm right-handed, but I like jabbing and kicking off my front leg.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, so something that was really cool for us when we were growing up and competing and stuff was that front foot. Like if I saw someone step inside Lance's front foot, a big thing for us was sweeping the leg. So I wonder, is that at all applicable in mixed martial arts, that front foot? Like if they step inside on you?
For sure. Like any time that you win the foot battle, so if you get your foot on the outside, like a whole bunch of techniques open up for you. And really the only technique that is open for the guy who's lost the foot battle is to spin. So that winning the foot fight is key to an orthodox southpaw. And I have no idea why, but I have just been, again, like a magnet for southpaws. So of our 20 fighters, probably 10 of them are southpaw.
Really? Wow.
Like I'll have pad work nights where I've got maybe 2 or 3 guys in for pads and it's all southpaw. And it's
Do you switch stance if you're holding pads for a southpaw?
Depends. It kind of depends. You do sometimes. Like looking at the top of the welterweight division for Jono, there's about 5 or 6. I think there's 6 southpaws in the top 15. So we have just started playing a little bit with me southpaw, just so that he gets used to being southpaw. But traditionally, no. I'll just hold pads in my orthodox stance and just kind of.
So like if he does a jab cross, you're going to catch that thing with your right hand.
Yeah.
I like it.
And so you'll catch against Jono, it'll be like the cross will go to your lead side, and that's like it jacks you up. That's one of the hard things. And it's also
that's gonna be his cross, his left cross, like his rear.
Yeah, so his backhand, and so it's the power shot, but because it's hitting you on the front hand, it's like it's catching you way earlier. So then some coaches hold like the straight punches on their backhand, and they'll only catch. So yeah, there's.
I like it. No, that's actually really interesting because we have a lot of kids that are southpaw, but sometimes if you're a little bit lazy, the coach just get everyone left leg in front. We're all holding the mitts the same.
I remember that in Thailand. Like even though I'm southpaw, I do pretty much most of my training orthodox.
Yeah.
It's like you do all the pad work orthodox, literally spar, switch back to southpaw.
Yeah.
Mate, all bets I'm going back to southpaw.
Yeah, that's so intense. Like maybe again because I came from a traditional style. Like in Wing Chun, there's like you don't really have a lead side, so maybe that was why early days. But then all through my like fight career, I trained orthodox. But for my guys, I'm really comfortable with them switching. So I like all of my guys to be switch hitters. I want them to be able to go out of orthodox to southpaw. So some nights I'll get the guys to train from their opposite stance. Some people it's just like that they're only going to be one side fighter. So yeah, I'm really open to whatever. When it comes to that, yeah.
And another follow-up question. So Jono was using his left leg a lot. Would have been nice to see him use a right leg. I'm sure he's got a right leg, but if we just talk about our students, if you do find a student just loves one move a lot, how do you get them out of that mindset of just going for that home run and actually opening up, actually trying to sort of sharpen up the tools if it's on the right leg instead of just left leg only, as like a general question?
Yeah. Well, if we go specifically for Jono, so in MMA, I don't like lead side body kicks because they'll get caught much easier. So if it's orthodox southpaw, if you're going to kick with your lead leg, it's really an outside low kick or a head kick.
That's interesting, because it's right there.
You'll catch. So if someone is kicking to your lead side, you'll catch that kick really easily, and then you've got the clinch happening off that. So unless you want to clinch, that's not a great option. So yeah, like Jono's got a great right kick too. It's just it requires people to kind of move in a certain way and counter him in a certain way to see that. And so we didn't really see that. But then in terms of how you try and get students working outside of their go-to stuff, that's hard. Like I struggle with that, especially when sparring's getting a bit more heated. You got to expect that guys are going to go back to what they're good at. So you just kind of have got to try and develop it. You can do different things. Like with Jono, we box a lot now because he's kick heavy. But like, you know, again, if it's not broke, don't try and fix it. So like,
I can't wait to see his next fight. Let's see the next weapon he's got.
yeah, and
Maybe a front kick or something. He's got
Yeah,
left,
like-
right, down the middle or
yeah.
something.
he's beaten people with a front kick before. So
Oh, yeah?
like, you know, he really is a complete martial artist. It's just he's going to need someone to draw that out of him.
Yeah, that's something that'd be really interesting. In terms of the students, that's what we've seen. Like Lance could probably speak to it a lot more. You know, it's like you teach the students all sorts of stuff. End of the day, they go back to what they love. Yeah, Lance, you've taught a lot of technique.
Yeah, I remember we had because I used to be a state coach for the karate team, so Victorian karate coach, and yeah, you kind of feed a lot of technique in, and then comp day they're just doing just whatever they know. I think nowadays, because now I understand a bit more of the skill acquisition science, if you use more of a constraints-led approach, so maybe say if we use Jono as an example, maybe the practice session you would say,
Can't use your left leg.
can't use your left leg,
Yeah,
and you just force him to use other tools.
yeah, and that's kind of naturally what happens. You know, you box on certain nights, you do different things, and you're playing different games and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just hard sometimes, even when you're doing that, you know, and it goes live. Like even if you use jiu-jitsu as an example, if you've got a real heavy guard player, they can wrestle, and then on comp day they're going to pull guard. You know, like that's where they've been trained for a while, and that's where they find comfort. So that's what you're going to see a lot from. But I guess that's the challenge, isn't it? It's like that's as a coach, that's trying to break those things for people. You know.
That's the art of coaching. It's interesting with Jono because now he's reached, UFC. Like normally, I guess with other sports, like to test out new skills or even like a stand-up comic, like test out new material, you do like, open mics, or if you're a jiu-jitsu guy, test out new moves, you might do, grappling industries. But for Jono, he can't really just go back to amateurs. Like it's a test out. So he pretty much like he can only really test stuff in the UFC, and you kind of don't really want to be testing in the UFC.
Yeah, and that's why like you want to make sure that you are ready for the big league when you get there. You know, like that's another reason why we try not to cherry pick fights in the pros. You've just got to be undeniably the best in your weight class in the country, because you aren't going to get an easy path in the UFC. There's not going to be 2 easy fights in a row. You might get one which is a bit of a lighter, easier fight, and then you're going to get some savage after that. So you've got to be ready when you get in there. And then I guess in terms of implementing, we just try different stuff out. Like we try and spar at different places. We try and shake things up. You know, you want to break the guys out of their comfort zone a little bit. And so that's where you try and do that. And that's just where the student needs to have a good mindset towards trying to develop in training, knowing that it's going to get you further on fight night. Not just trying to win spars constantly, because that's where you're just going to develop that A game. You just try to explore the sparring sessions a bit more. And so, yeah, I guess that's kind of when it comes to guys getting to the UFC, it's hard. It's hard. And they often have a target on their head where like you'll go to a boxing gym and you know that those guys are going to try and take you out because you're the MMA guy. You roll with jiu-jitsu guys and they're going to be gunning for you one after the next because they all want to take that crown of, oh, yeah, he's good, but I've subbed him, or yeah, he's good, but he got dropped.
Does that really happen to any of your MMA guys? Like they get headhunted?
Not here. So here, I think because here it's such a high level match.
There's so many MMA guys. Like I just assume everyone's doing MMA.
Yeah, and I think like yeah, probably that was more for me me as I was coming up. That's what I felt a lot. Like I would go spar at kickboxing gyms, and you just knew that they were resting when they weren't sparring with you. They were having light rounds with each other, and then when they went with you, they were going as hard as they could. And then you'd get it when you'd kind of be visiting jiu-jitsu gyms, trying to get some rolls in. You just knew that guys were kind of trying to take you out. So yeah, I think, but then that builds you up. Like that builds you into being really difficult to handle.
So have you got some stories getting headhunted in jiu-jitsu gyms?
Well, funnily enough, this wasn't him headhunting me, but I trained with Burak Saman for a little bit, and just randomly when I was messaged him, it was his opening night of his gym, and so I didn't know. I just the timing worked out that I messaged him on the day that he'd opened his gym, and so I went in there. There was like 60, 70 people on the mat, and I was like, "Wow, this is weird. Like this guy's got a massive gym." And at the end, he's like, "Oh, let's have a roll," and he put on a 20-minute round timer and just I was like, oh, sweet, this guy's serious about this. And then he pretzeled me up for 20 minutes in front of his students. And I remember thinking like, wow, that guy's really good. Wasn't necessarily headhunting, but that was like a rude shock when I rolled with Burak. We were similar weights and he just, manhandled me.
He's a very good jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
Very good. I've sort of got not really a similar story, but with your mate, Luke Smith, one of Jono's, is he like the osteo / like recovery person for Jono?
Yeah, Smitty's kind of like a Mr. Fix-It for a lot of the guys. So like with osteo, with like any injury to the body, we go straight to Smitty at mixed osteo. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so he understands.
Incredible grappler.
Yeah, so like, you can go to him and say, got armbarred, turned my arm this way, and he'll have a really good understanding of what's happened. And then he's kind of branched out now and he's done a fair bit of work in nutrition and in strength and conditioning. So he kind of can he can be a bit of a Mr. Fix-It across a few areas.
Yeah, because he was in the corner for you guys. But I just thought it was funny. It's like I was doing my preparation for this and I was watching the fights. Oh, it's Luke's there. And it was literally, like the day before, like we're rolling. So like I did probably one good move on him in the drills. This is on a Thursday Masters class. And then, like the rolling starts, he called me out. I'm like, oh, crap, here we go. And I was like, okay, I'm probably going to take a beating here.
Yeah.
And, like usually you can start a roll. You can tell by the tone, by the first grips, you just relax straight away.
He was on.
He's trying to sorry about swearing. He was just like trying to judo me. It's like, I'm just going to pull guard. I'm just going to take the beating. But usually it's just, after the first tap, they usually relax. But it was like the entire round. I was like, wow, this guy is a real deal.
Yeah.
He was
that was recently, or was
that was last week?
Yeah.
He mauled me.
Yeah, Smitty's legit. Like he's a legit black belt. So he had a neck injury, which stopped him from competing, but he was competing really well just before his neck injury as well. He was doing great. So
he's a great grappler.
Yeah.
I remember before his neck injury, Ninos brought up like these 3 purple belts. I think it was Luke, another guy from Invictus, and someone else I can't remember. And he's like, these are the 3 best purple belts in Australia. So just before his injury, like he was almost like, one of the top guys in AET.
Yeah, he was doing great. Like he was winning.
Now he's making up for it.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm more than happy to be a punching bag. It just practice my defense.
Yeah, definitely.
Is what it is.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's how I like. Before my pro debut, I was the only kind of guy taking fighting seriously at my gym. And so I'd just drive down and spar with like Glory kickboxers. So guys that were signed to Glory.
Yeah.
And they would literally, I just think about, I was literally getting dropped in every single spar and then driving back an hour back to Ballarat and do the same thing the next week. And then your defense gets really good. You know what I mean? Like you just get better because you're sparring at such a high level. Luckily those guys went to the body a lot on me, they didn't necessarily just go for the head all the time. And so you save a few brain cells that way. But you just end up developing great defense when you're working against guys like that. So yeah.
I like it. Sammy, I did have another question. So in terms of coaching, so like how do you lay out the skills? So just say if you got someone like a Jono, like if you're watching him fight, he's an amazing fighter, but he's not a finished product. So for him, like, how do you layer on the different things you want him to be able to do in the next few years? Because obviously you're probably thinking like there's so much that we can work here, but obviously you don't want to overload a student. So I'd be keen to see like, how do you layer it so that, the student just get overloaded?
Yeah. Well, like our blocks that we kind of do are always skill acquisition. So there's like a river of skill acquisition going on constantly. And then when you're getting ready for a fight, you just get into a bit more fight preparation. So you don't focus on skill acquisition as much in the lead up to that fight. You kind of prepare specific things for it. And then you have a little rest and you get straight back in the river and you get the skills developing. So like, again, like finished products, like no one's really a finished product. Like I'm certainly nowhere near a finished product. I don't think you guys would feel that you're a finished product either. So it's like,
nah, definitely not.
Body's always finished product.
Yeah.
So like, like that's kind of being a martial artist, isn't it? Is that it's like I'm constantly in the pursuit for perfection and I'm never going to attain it. So how I layer, like there's just a plan that everyone's in. So everyone is getting developed in the same way.
Yeah.
But within that like development, I want the guys to be really creative. So like I'm really proud of, if you were to take 4 of my fighters, they've got completely different skill sets. They've got completely different styles. They all learn off me the same way that on how we want to jab and how we want to throw this strike and how we want to do this and how we manage distance and how we set up angles and things. But
It's actually so true because you got like Aaron, you got like just over the 4 fighters,
Yep.
Aaron, Moe, Jono, and D.
yeah,
Everyone's different.
yeah, you got a power punching grappler. You've got a wrestle heavy guy who wants to get on top of you. You've got a southpaw who's long and tricky, and then you've got a real good distance managing striker. You know, so like I think that's a sign of a good coach when you can have multiple guys with different skill sets coming out from one coach. That's a really good sign of someone who can allow guys to be creative and not just be like a one system kind of person. And so, yeah, I'm really proud of that. And I think that that's kind of inside how I work the striking system in particular. I like creativity. So I like the guys to try stuff out and I like them to come to me and say, oh, this fighter did this and you've told us not to do that. Like, what do you think? And
Calling you out.
yeah, and it's just like, yeah, okay, cool. Let's have a look at it. You know,
Let's
it's
hit in
like,
the ring.
I was like, no, never, ever.
No, that's true.
Oh, it depends on who it is actually. Like some guys,
My gloves out. Let me stretch.
yeah, I do. You know, the boys laugh when I put the gloves on because I still say the same stuff. If we reverse the rounds and it's a 1 minute round with a 3 minute rest, I'm beating everyone. I'm still whooping all their ass. But yeah, like I try not to ever take a question personally. Yeah. Like if someone's like countering your technique, as long as they're doing it well and as long as they've earned the right to do it, if that makes sense. So like, not that someone who's not trained much doesn't have questions that are going to help you develop, but I'm not going to listen to someone's questions.
Aaron said he had a mate that was training with you and kept, you know, like kind of coaching while he was like you're running technique. And do you know the guy I'm talking about?
No, I can't place
you have to ask Aaron, but he said he's got his mate. He used to train with you, and yeah, he'd always be in the background, you know, saying, "Oh, I do this," or "No, I wouldn't. I do this."
Shut that down.
Yeah, he said you did. Yeah.
How do you shut something like that down?
It's different. It's different. Like sometimes it'll be, you know, a gentle word with them, like explain to me what you're talking about here, and then I'll kind of normally try and show that I've thought about what they're talking about, and then sometimes you just call it out in front of everyone. You just say, "Dude, shut up." Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's like, you know, there's only so many times I can hear someone resisting, and I guess what my point with that is like if you want to resist the learning, go pick another gym. Like if you don't like what I'm coaching, go pick another coach. Like I won't be offended if someone's like, you know what, I feel like this guy is going to be a better coach for me, then I would much rather that. It's something I'm like really proud of with quite a lot of my guys, if not all of them, that if I was to ask them, you know, what gym would you love to go train at anywhere in the world, I think pretty much all of them would say, I'd go check out this place or I'd go check out this place, but I just want to be here. Respect. You know, and I really love that. Like, I feel like we're building a really world-class team. You know, Jono's, I guess, the first horse out of the gates that's kind of made it, but I do think there's a depth of guys there who in the next 3 to 5 years we're going to be making some big noise.
Do you want to sort of, while we get to the end of the potty, to shout out a few of the guys that we should be investing in?
Not really, to be honest with you. Like, just let them do their journey. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to put any pressure on anyone.
I'll shout out a couple.
Yeah.
Moe, I actually want to pick your brain. Yeah. That double leg he's got is a freaking good double leg. Like, I feel like when he doubles, he's almost like just jumping into it. Like, you know, normally you get the double, you turn the corner and you kind of run it.
Yeah.
It feels like he jumps. Like,
he's quite a gifted athlete. Like Moe's pretty short, but he can jump. Like when we're doing like strength and conditioning stuff, he can jump really high. So I think he's just got really explosive legs, which lets him penetrate really deep. So it almost feels like he's kind of powering through you with how he kind of elevates out of the double leg too. But he's definitely one. Like Moe's a really special kid to me. He could have been doing med school right now. He chose. Yeah, he chose.
Really?
Yeah.
His parents must love you.
No.
Holy moly.
They probably put a bounty on you, bro.
Yeah.
They probably did.
Well, yeah, I can't go into that side of stuff too much, but yeah, like he's really clever. Like he's a really smart kid.
He's hungry to learn.
But he just like he sees something different than medicine, as his future, which you just support as the coach. It's like I had the convo with him where I was like, I don't know what I would do in your shoes. Like that's a real career. That's not just kind of like being a teacher is a career. But
he could always do it afterwards when he's like, in his 40s.
yeah,
So
and that's what we've kind of had the question. Like, I think that's most of the guys when they talk to me about should they be working and whatnot as they're training. My approach to how I lived my life was, is there that much difference in starting your focus on finances and those kind of things when you're 28, 29, 30 versus 22, 23, 24? You've really only got to commit to this game for 5 or 6 years and you'll know whether you've got a good chance of making it or not. And it is so much more healthy and it is so much better for you as a man and as a person to be in the gym training than it is to be partying, doing drugs, mucking around on the weekends.
none of your athletes do that?
They definitely do. You know what I mean? Like, and that starts from the top, I guess. Is it? But no,
like, you just couldn't with the amount of training you guys do, and you come in hungover.
Yeah,
it's you just get belted.
Yeah, look, like again, like I did rock up to sessions hungover a fair bit when I was training, especially Monday mornings. Like Monday morning, had a massive weekend. The group that I've got though, not really. Like they're very committed, and I think that also I have a lot of chats with the guys. Like we do talk about a lot of stuff, and I talk to them about a lot of the mistakes I made through my career, which I feel like held me back. And I think that they just appreciate that honesty when a coach is being honest about them. And it's like, I'm not a saint and I definitely didn't do things correctly. I mucked up a lot and I held myself back a lot by certain things that I did. So, it's like, try not to make the same mistakes as me.
I like it.
There you go. That's a good way to wrap it up. So, Sammy, awesome job. If you guys want to see more of him, check out Combat One. Not J1, Combat One.
Yeah.
That story for another day. Where, Sammy had a jiu-jitsu school open up literally next door, but we'll save for another time. That's a good one. But anyway, hopefully you liked it. Shoot us a message on Instagram if you want more. We'll see you on the next one.